So every time I record one of different sections, so we have like copies of different sections. This is good. Okay. Okay. So last session we covered like criteria. We talked about how we can use the criteria row in the query design grid to apply different filters. We talked about two types of two ways to apply different criteria. One is the and, one is the or way. So when you place different criteria in the same row, in the criteria row, that will be treated as an and, meaning that all of these criteria should be true for the output table. So when you have like customers from California and their last name starts with an S, you place it in the criteria row, and that's how it will be checked to produce the results. Sometimes we say, no, customers from California show the reservation, or the last name starts with S. In that case, you place the criteria, like the filters, in different rows. One in the criteria row, one in the or row, right? When we create a new query, okay, let's go back to create query. So here we have one criteria row, one or row. That's where we place values to filter the results. We talked about different examples from last session. Let me go over here. I've added the screenshots now to each query. You can check the query. This query was asking us to create query and show reservations that the status is completed or payment date is set to October 20th. Okay, so we need to filter the results for the reservations that the reservation status is equal to completed or the payment date is this. That's why we selected reservation table and payment table. These are the tables that the data comes from. Then we added the columns that we want to show in the output table. We also added like status and payment date. It's the status should be completed. You don't need to put the equal, it assumes when you place it this way that a status is equal to completed. It puts it inside double quotation because that the status is the data type of that field is a text, so it places it inside double quotation automatically. For the payment date, because it knows it's a date type, it automatically places it inside this sign. But the key point here is that the query said the status is completed or the payment date is set to October. So it's an or. Either one of them is true to show the result. So shows the reservation for status completed, and you see we place the date not in the criteria row, but in the or row. So different rows, one in the criteria row, one in the or row. That means or condition, okay? Or it is the status is completed or payment date is set to 20th. If I place them in the same row, if I move this date to the criteria row, what does that mean? That means the status is completed and the payment date is October 20th. Okay, so that's the difference. Then we talk about another query here, as well as the wildcard. We can use this for the fields that the data type of that field is a text. If you want to check whether the value starts with a particular character or word, or ends with a character or word, or it contains a particular character or word or phrase, we use this like and then quotation and the character or anything that you're searching, you're looking for, and then a star. So wherever you place the star, that does have a meaning. So I placed the star after the character. That star after the character means that it starts with B. It starts with B. if I place the character before this, if I place a star before the character, that means it ends with MB. Like this example, I place the star before A. That means only show the results, for example, when the first name ends with A. It ends with A. So we can use it for text data columns, like customer name, customer's last name. It starts with an S. So we use this to indicate that only show the results where the customer's last name starts with S. Then we looked at this query. It said, create a query that shows customers' reservations whose last name starts with S or they're from Pennsylvania. Let's review that like for now to make sure that we remember everything from last session. First, let's see which tables we are looking for. We need to add to the query design where the data comes from. In this case, last name, estate. These are the data about the customer is stored in the customer table. So I will need to add the customer table. What should we do? Drag the customer table to the query design. Drag it. Then what else? We can see that in the output table, we need to show first name, last name. They come from the customer table. We already added them. Customer ID, we can add them from the customer table. Event date, start time, end time. These are stored in the reservation table. So that means I need to add the reservation table. I don't have it. See, if I click here, the reason that we add the tables, okay, so we can access them and like call them. If I remove this table, I click here. Okay, I don't have anything to use to create the query. Every time you add a table, that's when you access to the fields of table your query. That's why we add them here. So once I add these two tables, that's when I'm able to access the fields in those tables. So now we want to show customer ID. Customer ID exists in both tables. Which one should I select? If you have a field that exists in both tables, usually the primary key in the other table is the foreign key. You use the one that is a primary key. You use the one that is a primary key. So in this case, customer ID in the customer table is a primary key. I use that. Double click on the field to add it to the list of fields. Then I add first name. I add last name. Okay. Sorry, I'm getting confused here. Let me just move this. I'm more used to this one. Okay. Event date, a start time, and end time. So event date from the reservation table, a start time, and end time. One thing is missing that I haven't added the field here is that we want to check whether the customer is from Pennsylvania, meaning that whether we need to like use the customer's state. Did I add the state field here? No, I haven't. So I need to add the state. Where do we have the state? Is the customer table. Okay, there's fields in the customer table. In the customer table, state. I will double click on a state so I can add it to the list list I have here. Now we have the list of the fields that we are going to use, and like some of them we will show, some of them we will use for filtering the results. Now let's focus on the filter. It says show reservations only for the customers that their last name starts with S. The last name starts with S. I already the last name. On their last name in the criteria row, I can add that part that only show the results for customers that their last name starts with S. So here under last name, I type like space. The last name starts with S. I place the star after the character, meaning that it should start with S. Also, the query says their last name starts with S or they're from Pennsylvania. So it's an or, right? This is a key point. It's or they're from Pennsylvania. So in this case, because it's or under a state, I shouldn't place it in the same row as the criteria. I already have it here. One for last name. It's a or, so I will put it in the other row, in the or row. And I say a state and PA. So it shows the results only for customers. Either the last starts with S or their state is Pennsylvania. The last name it starts with S or state is Pennsylvania. I've also added like the screenshots to this website. So if you go here, you should be able to see the screenshots at the end of the page. So we've created the query. One thing is left, which is again double checking the query. Okay, let's see what we need to show in the output table, and that also tells us what we shouldn't show. So here it says only the customer ID for a start time and end time. Okay, so that to show, or I shouldn't show a state in the output table. So that's why I will unselect the state, so it doesn't show a state in the output table. And once I run the query, then it shows me the customers that either the last name starts with S or they're from Pennsylvania. Any question? What if we had a query that said their last name starts with S and they're from Pennsylvania? The change would be that instead of like PA here, I would type it in the criteria row. Okay, if I type PA here, it says the last name, every filter is in the criteria row now. Their last name starts with S and they're from Pennsylvania. Was the query. Okay, click right, save the name. Maybe you have more queries here. You see the queries are saved here. Anytime you want to see the query, okay, there are two ways. If you double click on the query, it runs the query and shows you the output table if you double click on the query. If you want to see the query design, you have to click right on the query and click right on the query and then click on design view to be able to see the query. Okay, so click right on the query and then click on design view so that you can see the query design. Okay, any question? Good. We talked about between a statement where we can use between a statement in the criteria section to filter the result based on two values, particularly with the date. So we worked on this query that was asking to show reservations where the event date is between two dates. So we created this query. And in the event date, in the criteria section, we use the between a statement that between the two dates. Remember, you don't have to add the delimiters, like automatically it adds it for the date here. So just type the date and it adds these signs automatically. So that's why when we use the between a statement. Then we talk about parameter query. What's the parameter query? Up to this point, every time we wanted to filter the results, we would exactly type the exact value. Like it starts with S, or which one was, oh, from a state of Pennsylvania. So we typed exactly PA in the query. Another way, let the user to enter the value so that they have like options to see the results for different states, for different values. We don't place the value itself. We let the user to enter a value, and then for that specific value, we show the output table. That's when we use the parameter query. For creating a parameter query, exactly wherever you in the criteria row or in the O row, like wherever you place the criteria, instead of typing the value, you type like a text inside brackets. The text is the one that will be showed to the user in the prompt. That's exactly what the user will see. The user will see this exact text to say enter the event date. They can enter the event date, and then the results, like let's say reservations, are exactly showed for that event date, for that particular date. You need to place it inside brackets, so don't forget, no parentheses. You don't need to add double quotations here, no parentheses, just brackets, and inside the bracket, the message that you will show to the user. Next, we worked on this query. To review it, let's do this again. Let's create this query. Read the query, and then we can work on it. Here, we want to create whenever we have a parameter query, means that like we want to like prompt the user to enter value. Parameter query that prompts the user to specify the reservation purpose and then show the reservations. Okay, so the user will enter the purpose and you filter the results for that particular purpose. Show the reservations. What do we need to show about each reservation? We want, for each reservation, we will show reservation ID, customer ID, event date, and a status. Which tables do we need here for this query? Which table? Everything that we are looking for, everything we are, yeah, go ahead.
Reservation and customer.
Reservation and customers. Why do we need the customer table? Let's add reservation for which we need. Why do you think we need the customer table?
Last class you said if they ask for like customer ID, for example, is the primary key and the customer table, so shouldn't we use it from the table that it's a primary key in instead of the foreign key?
Oh, I see. That's a great point. Let me kind of like revise. Maybe I explained it incorrectly. If you have both tables, okay, if for some reason I was looking, like I was saying,
Oh, if you keep it for us.
so if the query was asking first name, last name, customer ID, in that case, you would need both tables, and then you had the customer ID in both tables. Then in that scenario, you choose customer ID from the one that is a primary key. However, in this query, it only asks us to show the customer ID. And since I already have it in the reservation table, I don't need to add the customer table here. If anything more than just the customer ID about the customer, then I would need to add customer table here. But as long as the only thing that is asking me about the customer is the customer ID, and I already have it in the reservation table, that's enough for me. That makes sense? Again, if I need anything in addition to that ID, then I will need that table. Why? Because this key is a foreign key here. That's the way that we are linked to the customer table. So anytime we need additional information about the customer, more than just the key, That's when we reach out to that table to find more information about that customer. In this case, we only need the customer ID according to that. So that's enough for us. Reservation ID, customer ID, event date, and a status. I will add them here. Reservation ID, customer ID, event date, and a status. One more thing I need is which one is the reservation. Purpose is another field in the reservation table. It indicates the purpose of the reservation. If I open the reservation table, it gives me a better idea of what that is. So for each reservation, we have purpose and a status. The purpose, what was the purpose of the reservation? The status is what was now, is it completed or is it booked, canceled? Purpose, we have different purposes like workshop, seminar, hackathon, pitch day, other purposes. Good. So we want a user to enter purpose, prompt the user to enter the purpose, and then show the reservation the customer ID in event there that reservation. I will add purpose to the list. I didn't have it before. I added the purpose, and now I want to use it as a filter, as a way to filter the results. In the criteria section, if the query said show the results where when the purpose, for example, is workshop, that would mean that I need a workshop here. That would create query only to show for the purpose is workshop. Is equal to shop. If I run the query, what I would see is all the reservations where the purpose is workshop. Yes. Oh. Whenever you have questions, feel free to ask. I might be going fast, so don't worry about it. Yeah, I'm trying to let's see what happened here. Okay, yeah. So if it exactly specified the value for workshop to be like value for purpose to be workshop, then I would just type the exact value. However, the query is asking you to prompt the user to enter the purpose. In that scenario, under purpose in the criteria row, inside brackets, I type that message I want to show to user. Let's say simply enter purpose. Enter reservation, maybe it's reservation. Okay, reservation purpose. Let's try to expand this so we can completely see what we have here. I will expand this. Okay, enter reservation purpose. I placed it inside brackets. If I have the screenshot here, I can zoom it so you can see. Okay, inside the bracket, I type enter reservation purpose. Under in the criteria row under purpose, exactly like this one. Okay, inside the brackets, type that text that you want to show to the user. Don't use parentheses, don't use like double quotations. This is the exact text that will be shown to the user when you run the query. When I run it, let's run it. Okay, you see the exact text. Now it showed to the user in the prompt. The user can type whatever they're looking for. For purpose, let's say I will type pitch day. I think it was one of the purposes, pitch day. If I type pitch day, then I would exactly see the reservations where the purpose is equal to pitch day. once we created the query, one thing we should remember to double check the columns that we are supposed to show in the output table. If I see looking at these columns, I can see that I don't need to show, or I'm not supposed asked to show purpose of the reservation in the output table. So I need to uncheck the purpose so it doesn't show it in the output table. Okay, so I unchecked it. Okay, you also see that here if it's better if I zoom it. Okay. Yes. Yeah, like maybe I forgot to like check this. If it says, yeah, it says ascending, so you can like set it based on ascending, whatever the query says. Yes, event date, and then sort it based on ascending, and run the query. Thank you. Workshop. Remember, anything you type here should exactly match what you have recorded in the table. So if I place in like between workshop, let's say just simply, if I place a space here and click OK, it will not show me anything because there is no match there. It has to exactly match what you've like you have in the table. So you want to like in the reservation table, if I look at it, yeah, like not cap sensitive, I think, because but like exact match. I think it lowers the cases, but it still like checks like whether that like that word exactly typed. Good question. Because if I go back and type workshop, you can see that in the table. Okay, I'm gonna type workshop with a lowercase. Okay, it still shows me the result for them. So in that scenario, it still works. But in the table, it is with the uppercase, each one of them. So it works with that. But the word should be exactly similar wording. It's similar to what we have here. Thank you. Okay. No, what? So that would be our query. To use a parameter query to prompt the user to enter the value, and then based on that, we filter the result. I will save this query. And close it. Any questions so far? Wow. Okay, I'll give you 5 minutes to create this query, work on it. We'll see how it goes. Five or so minutes. This query is a little bit more challenging than the ones that we've worked on so far.
Where is it? In one time. Oh, it is.
Yeah, we have the room. And then add it after, yeah. Same line as. Yeah. And same line like each. Quotation no, because when I type no, it turns into now. No, you won't. And then check. And then to prompt the user to enter reservation status, which they use that underneath. Add in status reservations. Put it under the reservation. Or add status again, it doesn't say.
Yeah, I did.
And then you list the exact picture. Criteria. Like this.
Oh. Okay.
Go over this together. So this is a very good query. Because it puts together not just that we talk about, but also a little bit concept that we talked just before entering access. Let's create a query. Okay. Looking at the reserve, so just pay attention here. We'll talk about it. Based on this, what do I understand? Where do I have, I can first, let me find where do I get the data? Most of you did very well identifying two tables that we are going to use. We're going to use reservation table where we have reservation date, customer ID, reservation ID. All of them are in the reservation table. We have them. So I will add the reservation table. Okay. Then I also have, where do I have room name, room capacity? Does the room have a projector or not? The specifics about the room in the rooms table. So I need to add the rooms table here. Now, what I'm looking for is not list of all the rooms. The rooms table. The rooms table records one record for each room. For each room records it's like a specifics. And each row is assigned a unique identifier. Then I have a reservation, record the reservations, and also I have a reservation item table. In every reservation, we reserve one or more rooms. In every reservation, we reserve one or more rooms. Here, if I use this table, I only know the room ID. If I need to know more about ID tables, reservation items, and room. If I go back here, okay, I'm gonna close all these tables. I will actually remove the rooms table and only add rooms and rooms items. Okay. This will allow me to see the reservations and also the room that was reserved. Not more than that. The only thing I can know about the room in the reservation is the room ID. Okay, I can add reservation ID, customer ID, and room ID. For every reservation, I can see like who was the customer who placed the order and the room that was reserved. So now, if I need to know more about the room, are you paying attention? Okay. I only know the room ID. If I need more about the room, that's when I have to add that table. I have to add the rooms table, so I can add the room name, for example. That's when I get more about that room. That's when I get more about the room that was reserved. We are not looking for every room. We are only looking for the room that was reserved in a reservation. Okay. That's how we can get more information, by adding the rooms table here. So that's how the data works. Like the data flow comes from reservation, and then in the reservation item, we have room ID. If you look for more information about the room that was reserved, then we need to add the reserved rooms table to get additional information. That was the reason, like that's fix the issue with redundancy. Do you remember we had one table of reservation with every field, every column in one table? We cut that redundancy. We said we are going to assign unique identifiers to every record in a table, and then we link the tables using that unique identifier as a foreign key. We only need one reference. That room ID is a reference. So if you need additional information, you can go to that table and get that additional information. In this case, the rooms table has the additional information, which allows you to get more additional info about a room. Does that make sense? Okay. Now let's go back to the query we were working on. Okay. So what do I need? Reservation ID, customer ID. Again, maybe I explained this incorrectly, so I want to rephrase that. As long as we have this and we have the customer ID in the reservation table, that's enough for me to add the customer ID. If I need to know more about the customer, more than just the customer ID, then I have to add the customer table. Okay, then I have to add the customer table. Here again goes back, I think this is the confusing part. If I ask you to add show me room ID in the output table, if I ask you to show me the room ID in the output table, you see the room ID in two tables. You see the room ID in two tables. You can select either of them. Okay, select either of them. Here I selected the room ID from the reservations table. Reservation items table, sorry. Okay. You could have selected this room ID from the rooms table. The idea is that if you already have the tables and there is a field that exists in both tables, like the room ID, which one should we choose? Usually it's better to choose from the table that field is a primary key. That's what I meant. Okay. We already have the table. In this case, probably room ID would have been better to be selected from the rooms table because it's a primary key. But it's still, either way is fine. Okay, let's get to the focusing on what we have here in the query. We want to show reservation ID, custom ID, event date. So I will add the event date here. I could have added it. Room name. Room ID, room name. Okay, so I need to add the room ID. So I will select it from room. Capacity of the room. Then the query is asking you to show reserved rooms that don't have a projector. The room name starts with, so we have a field as a has projector. It's a yes and no field. Yes, has a projector. No, doesn't have a projector. Now, I've added the fields that I'm going to use. Let me apply the filters. First, last name, room name. Room name starts with H. Under room name in the criteria row, under room name, I will type like H star. So it only shows the rooms that start with H. Has projector? No. Okay, so I only type no. It's a yes and no. It's not a text data, text field. So we don't put it inside double quotation. Just type no without typing it inside double quotation. Just type no. Okay. And then one more thing, which is it says prompt the user to enter the reservation status. So I need to add the reservation as a status as well here. And let the user prompt the user to enter the status. I will type inside the brackets, enter reservation status. Once I complete it, I will show you the like a bigger version of this. Okay. And also we know that in the output table, we are not asked to show has projector or not. We are not supposed to show reservation status. So I will unselect this one, and that should be our query. Okay, that is our query. Let me do this. I think is that? No. Since I cannot zoom it here, I will take a screenshot so I can show a better version here. Okay. Let me see when it shows. Okay. This one. Okay, I have to check every screenshot now here. Oh, that's it. So this is our query. Okay. Under status, enter reservation status, prompt the user. So we use parameter query to ask the user to enter the reservation status. I unchecked it because I don't want to show it in the output table. Projector, has projector, yes and no. Only yes or no. No means like the room doesn't have a projector. And then room name starts with an H. Yes.
How do I define stuff?
What does it ask you? I can check it later. Keep that in mind. I'll go back to check it. Maybe there is a mistake somewhere. You should generally accept like the yes and no. Yes.
If we're not taking anything from the reservation items box, do we still need it, or is it just to connect reservations and rooms?
We actually getting it. That's a great question. We are not getting anything from the reservation items, right? It seems that way. But we actually, we're getting is in each reservation, right? In each reservation, we are getting what room was reserved. So for that room, we get the room's data, right? If we don't have that, we are not going to be able to know which room was reserved. So it is correct that we are not adding any field here, but for connecting them and getting that info, we need that field, that table. Does that make sense? This is underlying part that like connects the two tables. It's like if I had that big table, I would have all these together. Now I have the foreign key. So what is happening here, if I want to kind of like show it, is three tables together. I'm going to do this. I will double click to reservation items, and room item. In the room, in the reservation table, it says for every reservation, right, you're getting the room's data. for each reservation, it gets the reservation ID. Then looks at the reservation items to find that reservation and see which room is for that. Uses key here, room ID is a foreign key, but that's the way we can actually find out more about that room. So uses it to connect it to this table. It's like application of 3 tables. You get this, you get the other one, and also that's when you get the 3rd table. You have to have them together to be able to pull up that information, that data about each reservation. It may not be clear in this case how it works, but in the back, it's because of the links that we've created. That link allows us to get the rooms for each reservation. Okay, I hope I was able to kind of explain that. So enter status. Let me just type as completed. See, I don't have any table that shows me reservation ID, and for that reservation ID, the room name, right? I don't have any place. But I have in the reservation items, I have the room ID. If I wanted to make it a little bit like kind of helpful for this case, maybe I could have changed this to select this from here, room ID, instead of from the rooms table, selected from the rooms, a little bit more clear that, hey, we are getting this from the room ID and then connected to the rooms. But let's just stick with that and run the query completed. Okay. Anyway, okay. We completed this query, and that's where we are going to stop. As I said, we want to like complete this, finish, and continue this next session. Quickly, I will give you the code for today's attendance. You don't need to submit anything. Just take the code and take the attendance. If you need time, take a screenshot and do it just a little bit later. Okay, so this should be our code for today. Thank you. Have a good weekend. I will see you on Monday. Please